Welcome, everybody, to the Celebrity Hour podcast. I'm Bryan Kluger. We're going to be having an excellent show today. We have an amazing guest. We have a legendary, a world heavyweight champion of visual effects, makeup, directing, all the way from Ohio, Robert Kurtzman. Welcome to the show.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Oh, so great. We're going to be talking about all the movies, all the visual effects, all the makeup, in your new film, Black Friday. Great cast, a lot of fun. But first, like in The Sound of Music, we have to start at the very beginning. Where did it all begin with you in movies and film? Was it something when you were growing up, you saw an old VHS tape and you're like, yes, this is what I want to do with my life? Where did it all begin?
Well, most of the movies that I grew up on, I saw in the theaters. VHS came around when I was in my teens, late teens, and that was a great thing because all the movies I had heard about that I wasn't allowed to watch when I was younger, now I had access to them, and I would stock them up and watch them in my basement. And I had a room in the basement, my bedroom, and my parents never knew what kind of crap I was watching that I was getting from the local video store, So, but no, I grew up from a very young age digging monster movies and fantastic films and the Harryhausen movies and anything that was just like had effects in it that just blew me away, like the Sinbad films and, getting to watch a stop motion animation, King Kong, Wizard of Oz, all those films. But then I was always drawn to the monsters. And then eventually, when I started reading Famous Monsters of Filmland and then Fangoria later, they always featured articles on these artists that create the monsters, and I'm like, wow, they actually have a job doing this for a living. This is cool, and then I just started wanting to do that at a certain point.
No, that's excellent. And you said that your bedroom was in the basement. I picture, like you're in the basement, you have all the movie posters or movies and like maybe artwork, going around. Was that the kind of setup you had growing up?
Yeah, pretty much. I moved to the basement because I have two brothers, and everybody wanted their own room, eventually. And so instead of sharing a room, I was like, well, I'll move to the basement because it was like also more private, and I could have my television down there. And, I always went to the basement Saturday afternoon, even when I didn't live in the basement, to watch the Saturday afternoon movies. And then this horror host named Superhost had a Saturday afternoon show, and they'd start with the Three Stooges and then go into a double bill horror film. Like it'd always be something like Them or The Giant Claw or, Tabonga the Tree Monster, whatever it was. And then we had the late night horror host shows on Friday night. So watching in the basement was a big deal because I could turn the TV up. It wouldn't bother my mom who's going to bed. And my dad was working, he'd get home at like 12:20 every night. He had that the 3 o'clock to midnight shift,
Yeah.
and he would wander in on a Friday night, and I'd still be up in the basement watching Big Chuck and Little John and watching whatever, crappy horror movie they had on. But that's how I got introduced to, horror movies and all that. So.
Wonderful. And so did you have access to like one of your parents' home video cameras? Did you make like little home videos as a kid, or did you get into the just monster making back then?
No, I did. When I got an early graduation present, which at that time was a RCA camera that had a plug that plugged into a giant 10-pound VHS deck that you carried over your shoulder.
Yep.
So that's what I got for graduation because I was dying to play around with that. And it's actually funny because that's the camera that gets shot up in The Demolitionist, in the like kind of retro throwback opening where the reporters are filming, getting ready to film the execution.
Right.
The camera that is on the tripod, and there is a one of those old VHS cameras, and we actually made a mold of it so we could blow one of them apart. For years I had this camera, but it was obsolete. So, but it looked cool, you know, to have as a TV camera. So, anyway.
No, I love that because I remember having the old JVC one and just making movies. Do you remember the first thing you made with that camera that you got for graduation?
It was just stupid little things. I mean, it wasn't anything like I didn't actually put a project, a film together.
Uh-huh.
It would just be goof off stuff.
Goof off stuff. So
Yeah.
growing up in Ohio, were there any like-minded individuals that loved the monsters and the mayhem and the horror like you?
No, I mean, there was friends that were big into comic books, but I was always into the movie stuff. But I would go over to their house and sit around reading their stacks of comic books. So I never felt I had to collect anything because they had it. If I wanted to read it, they had it. So I collected the monster magazines, you know, the famous monsters and the Starlog and, you know, all those magazines.
Do you still have them?
Then.
Those old ones?
Somewhere in a box. You know, I have a lot of them. I stopped collecting after a certain point.
Right.
And then I only started collecting the ones that featured articles on the company or
Yeah.
You know, and then those are the ones. But then I was like, I don't want to, you know, because it actually becomes a thing where you just don't have room for stuff anymore. And it's like, you know, I'm still holding on to 300 laser discs here, which I won't part with, even though my player is a pain in the ass to deal with because it doesn't really connect to anything new sound wise or anything. So it's,
well, hopefully in your Laserdisc collection, you have that Criterion 1933 King Kong disc, Laserdisc.
I don't think I have that one, but I do have a lot of stuff like that. And a lot of it I kept because over the years I've had a number of them autographed by the filmmakers I was working with at the time. So, you know, whether it be John Carpenter, Clive Barker, or whatever. And because they were like in album form, I felt like, well, those are kind of cool. Maybe I'll frame them and hang them all over the place, and it'll just be cool, you know, to see all these old these cover arts from years ago.
No, that's great. I'm glad you still have those. The laser discs are the way. And so, is it true that one of your first projects was Night of the Creeps?
It wasn't one of the first, but it was in my early days.
In your early days?
Prior to that, I'd worked on a lot of the Charlie Band movies from like Troll and Terror Vision, Eliminators, and those kind of, you know, a bunch of movies over there. Night of the Creeps is actually, I believe that was the first time outside of John Buechler's where I started. And it was kind of a stepping stone. Like suddenly Dave Miller was running the project, and I was going to be able to work with a lot of other artists that I respected, including my old partner Howard Berger. And not only that, we were going to be able to play the zombies, the beta zombies. So we actually perform in it as well. And then we do the effects on our own faces, you know. And but it was a big leap financially for me too, because I was only getting paid so much to work on the Charlie Band movies. And then suddenly there's a movie with a bigger budget and I got a real offer to work. And I'm like, wow, that's a step up, you know?
Yeah.
So that was exciting. So, and then working with Fred, you know, Decker, I was a big fan, just, you know, I'm a Monster Squad fan. And so that was exciting. But anyway, yeah.
No, that's incredible. And like the list of genre movies you have all the greats, all the necessary, the iconic ones, but the ones that I love, like, you know, if I was to introduce you into like a movie theater, I would probably say this is Dances with Wolves and City Slickers, Robert Kurtzman, because I love those movies. But those are like, you know, when you think of, you know, visual effects, special makeup effects, you don't think of those two movies, but you were a big part of those, right?
Right. Well, those are the odd, over the years, there's a lot of movies we've done that are sometimes comedies and sometimes drama and family films that you don't necessarily even know what effects we might be involved with, you know, at the time. But, you know, we did a lot of animal effects over the years, and Dances with Wolves was kind of our first animal effects movie.
Mhm.
And then after that, we started doing more and more of them. Like we have a big resume of animal films, from Wild America, which actually Devon Sawa was in.
Right,
And we
right.
created all the animal puppets basically for the film. We even made a costume that went on a mule, I believe, or a horse. I can't remember at the time, but I think it was a mule, and it was a moose costume that zipped over the whole thing with the antlers and everything. So that was
No,
kind of funny.
no, that's incredible. And I love that, you know, your entire catalog of films, it kind of seems like everybody came back for Black Friday, this new movie, because Michael J. White, Devon Sawa, Bruce Campbell, who you've all worked with, and it's just you're, you know, the mold that keeps everybody together. It seems like. I mean, and I know you, since you've started, you know, back in the early '80s and stuff like that. There was that great camaraderie and, you know, kind of clubhouse of visual effects and special makeup effects people that came together and made some of the best movies ever made. And so it's fun to see you all together still having a great time, right? Is that how you feel?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we had an incredible time on the show with all of them, all the actors and the filmmakers and the producers, everybody. And it was kind of a big family unit that came together. And then on the effects end of things, it was the same thing, because the team that I brought in were all people that I've worked with over the years. Some of them started out working with us at KMB and have their own companies now. And so when I started this up and started looking and in my head, breaking it down, like how to create this in COVID land in the time we had, it was that, well, I'm going to call all the artists I want to work with, and we're going to figure that, you know, how to do it without having a 20-man team in one space, basically. So
Yeah,
that was a challenge with the movie.
That was a challenge with the movie, The Space.
Yeah. Well, the challenge of creating all the effects during COVID.
Yes.
When people were still trying to figure out how do we work, you know, with this distancing, you know, how can we put 20 people in a room and not test them every day, which is very expensive. And so the easiest way to do it was to let the artists work in their own space. So that's what we did on this film. I hired the artists and they worked in their own space. And then basically I'm like the producer I'm the producing the effects and hiring the artists I want to work with. And instead of bringing them then into my workshop, I just let them work at home or at their studios. So
cool. So everything
kept out really cool.
Yeah, and safely. That's good to hear. And so with Black Friday, and in addition to your resume and all the ocean of zombie, alien, demonic films out there, what creative process goes into to create a different type of zombie or alien type creature? Because in the movie, you see these elements of these creatures and they morph, they transform into something greater. Like, how do you build off each film and character to create something like you did for Black Friday, which was excellent, by the way?
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, no, we had a lot of fun, and that's probably the reason I took the job, was because it, you know, when I first started reading it and they started turning into like the infected zombie idea, I'm like, you know, this has been done, right? But then it goes up another level, and it's like suddenly there's alien DNA injected into the concept, and then that just opened everything wide open. So at that point, I knew that we were going to have fun getting to come up with these ideas, and Casey, the director, had some great ideas and about taking them into this weird, almost like their teeth fused together and they end up with these jetting beaks, you know, and so it's almost like the alien DNA or the alien race that's infecting this is, you know, had some sort of bird quality to it.
No, I got that from that too, the bird quality. And so in your career or in your line of work, is the biggest thrill you get when you actually, so like a part in the movie, a throat gets ripped open and you know, for me watching it as a viewer is like, yes, is that something like that when it happens on set, when it pops through and, you know, blood splatters, you're like, this is what I'm here for?
When it works, it's funny. When it works, yes. Blood gags are torturous. You know, it's always timing and
Clean up,
blood's
yeah.
coming out too early and you're trying to mop it up before as the camera's rolling. There's all that stuff happens. But yeah, when it goes off good and you hear everybody else on the set go, oh, or, you know, they just react to it, then you're like, okay, it worked. Blood gags aren't my favorite thing to do. So
What is your favorite thing to do?
well, my favorite thing as a makeup artist is the application. Well, the design phase I really like to do because of working with the artist, and then there's a lot of ideas that keep you going, and you know, so that's great. On set, though, I love to apply. I love the application process. So that's pretty much my favorite thing.
Is there anybody that you've applied makeup to that prefers to be in the full makeup than another person? Like there's just like somebody you've worked with that's like, yes, put me in all the makeup. I love it.
Yeah, they're usually that way when they first start. And then after 2 days, they're like, what the hell did I sign on for? But some people know what they're getting into who've done it before, especially like suit performers like Mark Steger. My son Louis, who plays Emmett, he's he knows what he's in for, and yeah, he's miserable half the time, but he puts up with it and struggles through it. So I think anyway, I'm sorry, got off subject.
Oh, no. Like, was there anybody that like really loved doing it? Because I know that could be an intensive process. Is there any advice that you would give your subjects? Like, just stay calm, chill, and it's going to take a few hours.
Yeah, it's pretty much like when you do their head casts and you have to let them know that they're basically going to have to meditate for a little bit. So
yeah, put the straws up the nose and breathe.
No, there's no straws. Nobody does that. I haven't done that ever. Nobody's done. That's like something from the 60s that everybody refers to all the time. But I've been on shows where actors that I've done the live cast on say, yeah, they stuck these straws up my nose. I'm like, never did that. But it distorts the nostrils. So interesting. But anyway, most of them, like Robert Englund, for instance, Robert has been in a million of these prosthetics. I mean, he probably put more on than anybody. I can't say he enjoys the process of putting it on or taking it off, because that's even worse. It's more messy. But I think once he's in the makeup, then that's where it's worth it to him, because now he becomes that character. But you know, nobody really enjoys the process of getting it off and on. Even Doug Jones, he was going through that now on Star Trek a million times, but you know, he enjoys it because he enjoys what he does. But you know, the poking in somebody's face for 3 weeks straight every day with the glue on your face, they can't possibly enjoy it. So
get tedious. Yeah, we had Robert on last year and we talked about makeup and he loved ripping it off every time.
Yeah, except it tears your skin up.
Yep.
So yeah.
He was great. And I mean, the amount of movies that you've done is just still, again, amazing. And still the best movie I've ever seen. Anybody asks, what's your favorite movie? And mine from 1992 until now is still Army of Darkness. Like, it's the perfect movie. It just, I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but you were a big part of that. And I know you started with, Evil Dead 2, I guess, with the Sam Raimi crew, right? And then got this big budget Army of Darkness. Can you talk a little bit about that Army of Darkness, experience?
Yeah, Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness are like two of my favorite film experiences because of Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert and Bruce Campbell, working with them again. But also on both those films, it was like isolated, almost like with Black Friday. It was an isolated setting. Like when we made Evil Dead 2, we shot it in North Carolina. We were isolated. We shot in an old school building and then out in the woods. And we were like this film crew family in this very small town, you know, so we became very close and had a lot of fun together. And we spent 3 months doing that movie there. And then years later, Army of Darkness was cool because it was almost the same thing, except now we're up in the desert, you know, taking over a hotel, and then every day getting up in the afternoon and going to work and working all night. And they were blowing shit up every day, so that was exciting to see. You know, every day we were blowing shit up with explosions and fireballs on wires, you know, with the camera behind it, and just all this crazy stuff. So it was, the energy level was really up on that, on both those films, to where you could work all night and not even care. You were like, you know, you could just go 18 hours and be like, this is so cool. You know, now I'd be like, you know, I'm done at 12, dude. You know, anyway, it was just a fun experience, you know, and it was like being on a Harryhausen set. You know, we had the castles, we had guys on sword play, guys on horseback. So that, and then we throw in, you know, these zombie puppets and stuff, which was really cool.
No, that's great. And that just that funness, that entertaining value of working on that definitely showed in Black Friday. Like, it just seemed like everybody was having a great time on the set. And I'm sure, because I mean, you are, you know, a Bruce Campbell, like jack of all trades. Like, you've done cinematography, directing, writing, producing, you know, you've acted, you've even done stunt work on, I think, a movie name called Numbers with Michael Pitt and Sandra Bullock.
Actually, they stuck us under that category. We're really puppeteers on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there was not a chimpanzee. What was it? There's another kind of a primate, and I can't remember off the top of my head, that we had to make a puppet of, that attacks her in a shed.
Right.
And I haven't seen the movie in years, so I can't remember. But that was it. It was just weird that it ended up under stunts. But
it was a stunt monkey. But no, you had all that. So when you bring all of these elements of filmmaking to Black Friday, what, like, do you like to see everything come into play? Do you have all the input? Do you stay back and just do makeup? What do you enjoy doing on the set?
Well, of course, once I'm on the set, that's what we're doing. We're operating the creatures and working the makeups and everything. But you know, it goes a little beyond that, because during the process, we talk about how to shoot things and how we're going to cover, how much of this effect is going to be covered, or what do we see and don't see. But then when we get to set, there's a collaboration between me, the DP, and the director on best ways to make this stuff look good. You know, like if I see something that's totally overlit, and I get very concerned, you know, I'm like, hey, it's so obvious what's going on here. So like, can we, you know, put it in shadow or whatever? But I mean, I rarely have to do that, but a lot of the times it's just, what's the best way to achieve the angle on the effect that doesn't give away what you're doing, which is, you know, with puppets and things, there's obviously a certain way you want to shoot it where you're not giving away the tricks, you know, especially in an in-camera effect, you know.
Yeah. So. What was the most challenging creature you had to create? Well, I mean, was it something like from Tusk, which I loved? I love that movie. Or was it Evil Dead? Was it Leatherface, Army of Darkness? I mean, Spawn, In the Mouth of Madness? Which?
Well, all of them have their challenges. I mean, Army of Darkness was, I think, the first time that we had something of that scope, and we weren't the only effects house on it. You know, Tony Gardner was doing the Evil Ash effects, and then we were doing the Army of the Army itself, plus you know, the pit bitches and the pit witch, and the scope of that and the amount of time, I think we had like, I was thinking like 10 weeks to build all of that, all those puppets, and then figure out how to puppeteer them out on location when they're 3 feet above your head and you're operating like this. So they dig trenches and everything. So I that was probably the first one, most challenging at that time. And yes, Spawn's another one that was very challenging because of the Violator puppet that we built. That was the first time we had built something that big that was hydraulic and mechanized hydraulics, you know,
Right.
computer controlled thing. So, which then ended up becoming the creature in those same mechanical things, understructures were used for the faculty. So that's what we built, the big creature, the bleacher creature, and
Right.
the faculty was built on that, which was very cool. So I really love the faculty. It's a really fun movie. So.
Oh, I love that movie. I was there night one. It was a great film. So I noticed some of the items in your background, and obviously it looks like you get to keep some of your creatures and stuff like that. Is there like a prized possession from a movie that you did not make that you have?
No. Oh yeah. Wait, I'm looking at stuff. Yeah, I have the out of the original mold, a replica of the I'll just show you. I mean, because it's one of my favorite movies of all time and one of my favorite movie experiences, you know, like Aliens or Jaws, that movie that you see that you're like, holy shit,
Yeah.
this is amazing. So so I have one of these.
Oh, you got one of those. That's amazing. Is that a real one?
No, well, it's a real, it's from the original mold, but
that's
it's
awesome.
not like the original one.
Okay.
So
That's incredible. Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, I got it from a prop person friend who, you know, guys like us, we always collect, like there's life casts that almost all makeup artists have of all the legendary, you know, like Boris Karloff, all the horror, you know, Christopher Lee, Bela Lugosi, you know, it's like, everybody has those. So those are things from other, you know, movies and stuff that I collect, but that's it. I don't have room. I'm not a big collector in the sense of like, you know, I have to have, you know, something from an old TV show when I was a kid, like a replica of it or something. Like I don't have a Doctor Who Dalek in my space, but
not yet.
not ever.
Not ever.
I'd love to have it, but I mean, like I just, you know, it just taking up too much room when you start collecting all that stuff and you barely have room to work in.
Right, so. Right. No, that was a cool figure. The IJ. And now, so like you got to work with your son and you work with your wife too. Like she does some of the makeup effects too, right?
Yeah, she actually runs the show basically she coordinates everything and then gets her hands dirty on set with a lot of blood stuff.
That's awesome. Like, if you don't mind, how did y'all meet? Did y'all meet on a set of a movie and just realize you like the blood and the guts and stuff like that? Is that fun?
No, we actually grew up together. We've known each other since kindergarten. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But that's really cool. That's awesome. So with that, like this family full of creatives and monster makeup, do you ever get hired out to, you know, just make people into movie monsters like on a regular like Tuesday? Does that ever happen?
I mean, about Halloween time, you get people that hit you up like, hey man, I'm going to this Halloween contest. Can you do something on me? You know, and my standard, I'm pretty much now. At Halloween time, I don't even dress myself up. I don't want to, you know, even deal with it. I just want to watch AMC all night, you know, horror fest. So no, I kind of hide at Halloween. When I was younger in our 20s, we would, all of us makeup guys would get together at a makeup party with just tons of makeup effects people. Mm-hmm. And everybody's trying to one up each other with their costumes and everything. And we would do our makeups and go to the party and then start drinking. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, you realize I got to go home and take this prosthetic off my face, you know, it's covered in blood or whatever. And pretty much just fell asleep on, and then next day peeled your face off your pillow and with makeup everywhere, and then you'd have to go take it off with a hangover. So I quit doing any of this dress up Halloween stuff. But
No, I get it. Because you're kind of in that Halloween aspect, probably 24/7 all year round.
yeah, I do it for a living. So like, do I really want to do this? And nah.
Oh,
I see
that's
what
good.
the actor goes through every day, so I don't want to deal with it.
Right, right. And so going back to Black Friday, was there any influences from other movies that kind of inspired you when you went in to create creatures and work on Black Friday?
No, Casey had the idea and the direction that he was taking in his mind for the creatures, and that's kind of what we ran with. The only thing I would say is sometimes with shorthand with your artists, you might reference something to give them an idea of that, what you're looking for. And in that case, Angry Granny was one of those things, because the way Casey described it is this lanky, old pot-bellied granny. So with a humpback, but now it's a monster version. And so in talking to the sculptors and the concept artist, Mark Kidwell, I basically said, take the profile like Meg Mucklebone's profile, but it's not as exaggerated and big of a creature as that. But take that idea and give me a profile picture so I can sell that concept to the director, because we talked about it, but describing it with the humpback and everything. If you know Meg Mucklebones, right, from Legend?
Yes, I do.
Robert Picardo played him in
Yep.
the swamp, the Swamp Witch. So that creature has that look of that slightly humped back and the pot belly and the saggy boobs, and so that was the right point of reference basically in talking to the artist. But that was pretty much it. The rest of it was just like taking what was in Casey's head and trying to visualize it.
Oh, I love that, because that Legend Blu-ray Arrow video just came out and fresh on the mind, and that's a great comparison. I love that. What do you remember that is the goriest effect, goriest creature you made?
Goriest. Well, I got the Bride and Reanimator.
Oh yes.
Because she was all opened up, and there was we basically studied a lot of anatomy books when we were sculpting all the muscles in her neck and the muscles in her chest and everything that was open and exposed in between the different color skin patches, So I thought that was a pretty gory, messy thing. Other than that, probably one of the biggest reactions I've ever gotten for anything we've done that is kind of a violent gore thing would be Gerald's Game, the degloving.
Ooh, yes.
So that was something that even people I worked with, other makeup effects people, would like text me or call and go, dude, I just saw that. That was really like off the hook,
I like how you call it the degloving, because it sounds so nonchalant. With that scene, you're just like, almost everybody has to look away or they squint their eyes, because that is right. That's great. And Carla did such a great job selling that.
Oh yeah, she was great. And she was in when she was cuffed to the bed, she was really cuffed to the bed.
Really?
Real handcuffs. So
oh my
yeah,
God.
They'd have to give her breaks, but she was in there for, long takes and stretches, with these things on her hands. So she's a trooper.
That is incredible. I have a serious question for you now. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Why is Acdc one of the best rock and roll bands ever?
Because it is. Yeah, they are. Oh man, I'm a huge Acdc fan, but they have a driving energy about their movies for me that, or their music for me, that it 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 drives my creativity sometimes. So like I can just put ACDC on and sculpt for hours, you know, and there's so many classic songs, and I mean, they've been around forever and they still rock it out, you know. And one of the best concerts I've ever seen. I've seen them several times, and I just love watching. I took my son when he was like 12, his first concert, to see DC in Cleveland. So
Hell
it
of
was
a
a great
show.
night.
I've seen them several times too. And their last album, Power Up, it was incredible. I was like, holy shit, this is an excellent album at, 70-year-old dude still rocking.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I'm glad that you listen to ACDC as you're tuning up, because I love to put them on when I'm, working and stuff like that too. It's like the perfect music.
I like putting them on when I'm bike riding sometimes too, because it's a definitely pedal to the music situation there.
Right. And I have to ask, I mean, you've worked with all these incredible filmmakers. I'm curious if you ever got to cross paths or have a phone conversation at least, and it might be no, but with Stanley Kubrick.
Oh,
No?
no.
Okay.
No.
I was curious.
Would have been interesting, but yeah, no, I never met the man either. I mean, to be honest, let's see. I'm trying to think what year he passed.
1999, because that was Eyes Wide Shut.
So no, there was never. I mean, in fact, I mean, at that point he was he just did Eyes Wide Shut, right? And
yep.
he was developing the
AI with
AI,
Spielberg.
And but no, never had the honor of meeting him even. So, I wish I'd worked with Clint Eastwood as well, but that didn't.
There's still time for that. He's still putting them out.
Doing stuff.
He is. That would be great to do Clint Eastwood. Would you want to do like a creature feature with him, or like a straight out Western with the animals and stuff like that?
I just work in the makeup department to be, you know what I mean? I would just do anything. It could be straight makeup. I don't care if there's a creature in it or not. But just to be on set with Clint would be so cool.
Have you met Clint?
No, never.
So I did. It was on the set of A Perfect World, and he was the funniest guy I've ever met. Like, surprisingly, he was just gracious and hilarious. But he's amazing.
That's a Kevin Costner film, right?
Kevin Costner, Clint Eastwood, Laura Dern. And at the time, Laura Dern was dating Jeff Goldblum, so he was on set constantly. So it was very interesting. And so I guess since you love Clint Eastwood, what's some of the best Clint Eastwood movies in your opinion?
Well, there's a lot, of course. I always go to Dirty Harry, but I think my favorite is Outlaw Josie Wales.
Oh, yeah.
So, but his spaghetti Western, Fistful of Dollars, and Good, Bad, and Ugly are just amazing movies. But I don't know, there's something about Outlaw Josie Wales, and it might be because I think it was one of the first ones I'd seen in the theater.
Okay.
Because I was too young, like in the early 70s, my parents wouldn't let me go see Dirty Harry, although I did see the second movie at the drive-in with them in a station wagon. And we were in the very back watching the second Dirty Harry film, which was, I'm blanking on it. And then behind us was these women in cage skin flicks, like, Caged Heat or something.
Yes.
Or, just women in like the jungle cage movies. And so we kept turning around because me and my two brothers, we kept watching what was going on in the screen behind us just to see the naked breasts.
Okay. So, yeah. As we should.
Yeah.
As we should. What is the most thrilling movie experience you've had, both working in film and then as an audience member?
Okay, well, two separate things. I never have that incredible experience. Maybe Dances with Wolves, when we saw it, we were like, wow, this is like something else,
Right.
This is one of those once in a lifetime movies. But film experience wise, it's always, there's like 4 or 5 of them that I just sat down in the theater and then my mind was blown away. And it started off probably with Jaws, like the first big event movie where I just was like, oh my God, terrifying, brilliant filmmaking, everything. Just, you could watch it over and over again. Then later it would have been like Alien was definitely one of those, because when the chest burster hit, then I was glued to that screen. I had no clue what I was in for. The director just pulled the rug out from under everyone. Then the other one would be the sequel, Aliens. I was talking to my wife the other day because I was watching that show. It's on Netflix, The Movies That Made Us.
Oh, Beta, yeah, the horror one that just came out. Yeah.
And I watched the one on Aliens, and it brought me right back to the weekend. And I worked on Aliens at Stan Winston's shop, but I didn't get credit on that. We worked on a bunch of movies at the same time, Predator and Invaders from Mars. So
right, yeah,
it was actually Invaders from Mars at the time. So anyway, and I was telling her about, and I got emotional thinking about it because I haven't had a movie experience like this. It was like, oh, Indiana Jones was another one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that is completely blown away and so excited. And it's one of the, you walk out of the theater and you instantly telling people about it, you know,
right.
Telling my dad or my mom. I go home, I'm like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe this. And then they did this, you know. So Aliens was one of those because it just was it was just blew my mind what was going on in it and how they achieved it for really not at the time a small budget movie, you know. It wasn't huge. It's like, I think $17 million. It ended up being that. I think they started at 15, and it was all these old school techniques, you know, miniatures and ships on wires being shot a particular way. It was just great. And then I think, I mean, of course, Star Wars, I forgot that one, but yeah, one of those, you know, where you sit down and you've never seen anything like it.
Right.
And it's so hard now. You can't, you know, you go to the theater now and it's like a spectacle movie is there's nothing new there. Well, they can do anything now. Oh, armies of people battling. I've seen that, you know. I mean, it's not as exciting as it was back in the 80s and 70s and 80s when the technology to make these movies was just starting to explode. And yeah, you were just like, never seen anything like it.
You had to be creative. And I like just listening to you, I could listen to you for hours talk about this stuff because I could see the passion and the love there. Because, you know, when you mentioned the chest burster scene in Alien, that scene was so perfectly constructed with like a fun dinner and everybody's loosey goosey, and then all of a sudden just like hell just begins and nobody knows. And then when you get into Aliens that you worked on, it's just like James Cameron action and like scary and just, you know, times 10. Right. And it's just incredible. And it's great to hear you talk about it, even when you worked on it.
And the Thing is another one. That's the other one.
Oh, yes.
I saw probably 5 or 6 times the first week it came out. Because, you know, I was a huge John Carpenter fan, and yeah, right. My basement did have Carpenter posters all over the place. And I, you know, I was a kid who collected soundtracks in Fangoria magazine, you know, so it was just, you know, I collected all of that stuff and just admired these filmmakers and got hooked at a very early age.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And so my last question as we end this conversation, it kind of goes along with that, but it's obvious that you're just a huge lover of cinema. Are there any, besides perhaps that we just mentioned the chest burster scene in Alien, are there any particular scenes in movies that have always stuck with you that just you wake up and you say like, oh fuck, I love this scene, is just good, inspires me for the day to go out and work, you know, or just this is the essence of why I love cinema, like particular scenes?
Well, of course, there's the scene in The Thing, because the Thing is still like one of the greatest practical effects movies ever, and
agreed.
I don't think can be topped, and it's also a great movie. like when the Norris sequence in The Thing,
Yep.
and then his head stretches off and sprouts legs and runs across the floor. It's probably that's the moment of like, it's also one of the moments that I'm like, I want to do this. You know what I mean? I want to do effects. You know, The Howling and American Werewolf,
Yeah.
same way. But it started out admiring everything all the way back to Planet of the Apes and, you know, Frankenstein, all of that as well. So Creature from Black Lagoon, you know, Invasion of the Saucer Men, you know, it's like, it doesn't matter. I loved every minute of those movies. So,
and are there any modern movies that you like It Follows or Hereditary or?
well, I worked on It Follows, so that,
right.
But yeah, that was a really solid movie. God, you know, what have I seen lately that I've been this like, I don't know. Can you think of it? Anything that I've like blown away by? No, I've enjoyed a lot of stuff lately. I mean, and to be honest, I'm enjoying the episodic television, you know, the mini series of the limited series right now. Well, we talked about that earlier. Yeah, movies that made us as far as the series, but it's really
well, you've worked on like two of the biggest jump scare movies to me ever, and that was, you know, The Haunting of Hill House, you know, the bent neck lady, and then Exorcist 3 had one of the best jump scares ever too, and you worked on that as well, right?
Exorcist 3 was a William Peter Blatty directed. We did Doctor Sleep, the sequel.
Oh, you did Doctor Sleep. Okay.
The sequel to The Shining.
Shining, right? Yes, yeah, okay.
Oh, wait, you're thinking of you're talking about the one that Rennie Harlan ended up directing.
Right.
Like, we didn't work on that one. We worked on the Paul Schrader.
The Paul Schrader one. Okay.
Which just came out a year or so ago as like a special director's edition of, because they made that movie twice.
Right, they did. They did
made it with Paul Schrader, and then remade the same movie in the same setting with the same actors with Rennie Harlan,
which is interesting.
Yeah, slightly different outcome at the end of the movie with the big possession scenes and stuff that were flying around on wires, doing all that stuff. But I didn't understand. Yeah, that made no sense to me. That to me was like remaking Psycho shot for shot, which I was like, what? Why? You know?
Well, no, it's an interesting concept because so many people love the original Psycho, but then everybody hated the remake, and it's kind of like, do you hate a remake that's shot for shot and same dialogue, or how does that work? Or I have no idea.
Well, also there's nothing new to it. I guess in their mind, studio that is, that would be a good idea to just redo the entire movie with new actors, shot for shot, the same movie, except it's going to be in color with more familiar faces. So maybe a new generation of people will discover it.
Okay.
But it didn't really work out. So
oh, there you go. That's a great explanation. So the spotlight is on you now. Tell everybody where they can find your work, where they can find Black Friday.
Well, Black Friday is out in limited release this Friday on the 19th, theatrical, and then I think it's 24th is a VOD release, and shortly after Blu-ray, I guess. So yeah,
I hope, because I think the best, because I'm a sucker for special features and bonus features, and the best bonus features 10 times out of 10 are the special makeup effects features. Please tell me, is there going to be a great one on the Blu-ray? Because
I cannot tell you that yet. So I don't know yet. So I don't know what they're planning. So hopefully, of course, I'll be happy to be involved with it.
Oh, awesome. Love the movie. Thank you. See Black Friday. It's great. When you're out shopping on Black Friday, please go see this movie as well. It's wonderful. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Go to Robert Kurtzman, Makeup Effects, MUFX.com if you want to check out my work.